Hello and welcome to Beyond the Point podcast with me, Ali Christensen. I'm curating the content I wish I had had as a dancer and creating strong, healthy, thriving dancers for the future. Not only am I your host and ex-professional dancer, but I own Align Fitness here in Huntington Beach, California, and I'm the creator of online courses for dancers such as lower body flexibility and turnout for dancers. Before we jump into our podcast guest this week, who is amazing, I'm so excited to share this podcast with you guys. I just wanted to give a big shout out to all of you that are leaving reviews on iTunes. It's been amazing and so fun to read your reviews. Ones like Cunning Cat left for me that says, finally a one-stop shop. Ali is amazing. She does a fantastic job every episode of compiling the right and trustworthy information on all aspects of dance, things to improve your craft and improve your instrument or your dancer's craft. Double plus that it's for dancers of all ages and types. I don't feel alienated at all. I feel like I get to spend an hour or so with a trusted friend who lets me in on their best secrets. Thank you, Cunning Cat. That made my day. Other ones like Jess and Maya said that my daughter and I have been listening on our way to dance and enjoying talking about what we are hearing and how it can relate to her dance. We used a lot of the great information from episode 2 when we took her to a masterclass this week. That is exactly what I'm imagining as the parents and dancers are on their way to the studio, or as you're taking yourself to the studio. This is a way to get yourself in the mindset of being in your body and growing and expanding both technically, mentally, and emotionally. So that makes me so happy to hear other ones like that. So if you want to show a little bit of thanks and support to our guests who are coming on this podcast, because they are taking time out of their schedule to sit with me for an hour and give you guys all of their secrets, you can go to iTunes and underneath the podcast, there's a spot to rate with stars and leave a quick review. We'd love to hear what your favorite episode is, who your favorite guests have been, and what you've been learning. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into today's podcast. Today, I have my guest in studio with me, which is such a treat because I always do them via Skype or Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
I know. She's like, why am I here? Guys, I have Agnes joining me today, and I'm so excited to have her here. She has been a client for about the last year. She has a great dance story and has really taken dance in a way that I think most of us don't think of, and has been super successful, in my opinion, in creating a happy, fulfilled life through all of her ups and downs. So I told her I really wanted her to come on the podcast, and she's here.
Yay.
I'm so happy to have her.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Guys, Agnes she is a treat. She came to me because correct me if I'm getting the details wrong. She came and said, I have to get back in shape. I have something happening with dance. So you had been out of dance for a while and you had decided kind of that you were done with dance, like as far as like really trying to keep your body in tune for professional career or whatever you're doing with it.
Yeah. I think I just felt like I was getting older. I wanted to do other things. I wanted to explore other things. I've been doing kind of like animal activism on the side for a while and just like being very involved in that community. And so I wanted to focus more of my energy towards that direction. But I've done this a few times in my life where I'm trying to quit ballet and then something else comes up that basically not forces me. I mean, I want to do it. It's my choice, but it basically pushes me back towards ballet. I think from the top of my head, I think there were 3 incidents similar to this one. This was the third one. There were 2 other incidents when I was a little bit younger. But yeah, so every single time I have to just kind of condition my body back in shape to be able to do the things that I needed to do. So,
It's really true what all of our dance teachers said when we were young, that it's much harder when you're older.
Much, much harder. The last time I had to go back in shape was, I think I was in my early 20s. And I feel like it was much easier than what I'm doing right now. So,
yeah, which is crazy because you're healthy, you're active. We're not talking about making this radical change in your lifestyle. You're always doing things. You just may not always be in the dance studio in the past. So it's crazy that, just a few years can make such a big difference in your
or even just a few months. I mean, even just, being out of ballet for a few months, I think it's so easy to be out of shape, and it's so hard to get back in shape.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I remember being like in my career or seriously training, and you'd get a week off and it felt like you had a month off by the time you came back in the studio. And so you take a month off and it feels like you've taken a whole season off. They really get magnified, and I think it gets more as you get a little bit older. I never thought I'd say that. I always thought, no, people are just saying that. Like, they just think they have old creaky joints. I don't have old creaky joints, but it is much harder. So tell everyone a little bit about what brought you to that point where we met. Tell us a little bit about your training and what's going on there.
So I actually went to a pre-professional ballet school in Kirkland, Washington. I think they just changed their name. It used to be called International Ballet Theater. I think right now the academy itself is called International Ballet Academy. My teacher was a Russian teacher, and I believe that she studied in St. Petersburg and decided to open a pre-professional training and a youth company at the same time in Kirkland, Washington. So that's basically where I got my training. I did do ballet prior to moving to the States, before my family moved to the States in Jakarta, Indonesia. But it was, I really wouldn't even count that as like a formal training. It was just like recreationally. And when I went to that school, everything just kind of came into focus. And that was pretty much my life growing up. I never went to a regular high school or a regular school. And I just was basically spending all of my life in the studio. And then after that, I was offered a place in the company, and so I danced with them, and also I did a lot of guest appearances just around Washington State with different companies, and had a really great time. I mean, I have to say that, I was very blessed with the roles that I got, with performance opportunities that I received, but I knew pretty quickly as soon as I joined the company that, this is not really what I want to do for the longest. And it's kind of weird when you've already spent your entire life dedicating basically your childhood to an art form, and then suddenly find out that, oh my God, like I can't really see myself doing this beyond maybe even like a few years after that. I think I want to move on and do something else. And so that's basically what I did. I danced for the company, I believe, for 3 years or so. I don't remember. It's either 3 or 4, or maybe even 5, not too long. And then I decided to stop dancing. I actually got a job at a financial firm, Merrill Lynch, without any kind of financial background. So that was interesting. Found out pretty quickly that I was pretty good at it. And so I did that for a little bit, for 3-4 years as well. And then I just miss being active. I gained a lot of weight while I was doing my job full time, and I wanted to get back in shape, and I wanted to dance more again. And so there was a little bit of back and forth. So I basically quit my job. I returned to my company.
Really?
Yeah. And I did that for another 1 or 2 years, and then I moved here
to California,
to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was it about company life that just didn't feel like it was something you wanted to keep doing? Because I feel like, knowing you now, you love the art, you love dance. Right. I think you like the way it makes your body feel most of the time.
Yeah.
But, so what is it about company life that you knew right away at such a young age that what you'd been training for was just not what you wanted from the rest of your life?
It's a combination of things. I think when you're a student at a pre-professional ballet school, everything was already decided for you. And I felt like there was some really good guidance in terms of like, okay, so these are your classes. This is where you're going to be. These are the roles that you have to prepare for. And it was much easier for me to adapt to that because I felt like there was a sense of direction. once you enter company life, you're pretty much on your own. I mean, there's really nobody telling you you need to be here at what this time. I mean, there are, obviously schedule of classes and rehearsals, but I felt like the guidance that I really, really enjoyed, and actually I think I thrived because of that guidance that I got in school, suddenly was missing. And I didn't, for a while in the beginning, I didn't even know how to okay, so what exactly do I need to work on? Like what, you're taking class with so many people. I mean, it's very hard to get individual attention or correction. And my artistic director at the time was very busy. So it's not like it was even a possibility to do a private with her. And we're not she kept telling me that we're not in school. You're not in school anymore. You graduated from that.
That's a hard difference to make.
It's a huge difference. And then on top of that, I have to be very honest, the financial reward was not great. Mm-hmm. And that was a concern for me. Thinking about how much, even from a young age, I knew that I wanted to save money. I knew that I wanted to be able to make enough money so that I don't stress out about it every month. And to think that, I might have to get a second job or do something else to supplement my income was a little bit daunting. And I think that it actually takes away from your dedication to ballet. And I didn't know how to do that. I knew that if I wanted to maintain a certain kind of lifestyle, that I would probably have to take a second job. And if I do that, then I would be tired in the morning when I have to be at my best, taking class and warming up and everything and doing rehearsals. So the financial aspect was also a huge motivation for me to kind of step out of that world. And then the last thing is, it was so weird. I felt like in school, there was a lot of variety of teachers. There was a lot of variety of choreographers that we worked with, different experiences that we did together as students. But in the company, it's just basically you have classes, you have rehearsals, and you're getting ready for performances. And I found myself I wasn't getting bored, but it was very, very, it was a little bit too predictable for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that my creative mind was starting to search for something else, mm-hmm. something beyond what I've known pretty much all my life.
So how did you end up in a financial firm? Because that is something when I learned that I was like, excuse me? You said you had no education in it.
No, I didn't really have any experience in it. I think that a lot of people thought my manager was crazy when he hired me. I was so young. I mean, everybody else in the office was over 40. I don't even think that there was anybody under 40, between 20 and 40. The only people who were younger were in an assistant mm-hmm. position. I saw an ad on the paper and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I don't know, I remember seeing a movie about Wall Street and I thought everybody looks so happy and they have so much money. And so I thought I should try it. And I couldn't believe it when they called me for an interview and I thought, oh yeah, they're going to find out that I have absolutely no qualification. And I guess during the interview, my hiring manager and I talked mostly about dance. We didn't even talk about, I can't remember anything or any question about my financial background or anything like that. And he just said, tell me about you and tell me what you've been doing. And obviously the only thing I could talk about at that time was dancing because I didn't really have any other experience. And yeah, I got a call a week later and he said, when can you start? And
that's amazing.
It was interesting, and I definitely felt like it was a brand new environment for me. I felt like I went to space to a different, to a different reality, existing with very different kinds of people there. And I had to really, really prove myself there because, it was just something very different than what I've known all my life. But surprisingly, I think that building a business, I mean, I'm sure you know about this because you have your own business. Mm-hmm. I think that building any kind of business, in my case, I had to build a book of clients from zero. A lot of the principles that I used in my dance training apply. I mean, you can just transfer that to whatever it is that you're doing. So even if you're not going to end up as a professional dancer, you have all these skills that the importance of repetition, being very focused and
you don't get bored easy.
Exactly.
You do the same things every day.
Right. No, I saw a lot of people in the firm that I work for. Some of them were getting really bored because we had to do the same thing every day. I mean, we had to cold call, we had to prospect clients, and the process is pretty much the same every time. You're dealing with different people, but the process is the same. You're taking through the different people in the same through the same process. So I think that my ballet training probably helped me more than in ways that I probably didn't even understand it at the time. So,
yeah. I would think so. I have a couple of friends who are business owners, and we've actually talked about this. We've talked about hiring and work ethic and, working with different generations of people and that kind of thing. And they have all said that they have separately, especially as they've hired younger, like 18 to 25, they said any person who has had a dance training has been a phenomenal employee.
Wow.
And that was not a solicited comment from me, asking about it. They just, as we're talking about what type of people they employ and what are their challenges and what happens there, they've all, those few people have said something similar to that. And I think it's true. I mean, I really do.
It's the benefit of a very rigorous training and teaching younger people how to dedicate themselves to something. I think it's a very important thing to learn.
Yeah. And to see slow return.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because in ballet, it's very slow.
Nothing is instant. As we keep being reminded, nothing can happen just like that. Yeah. So I think that that's great for anyone who's thinking, well, all I've done is dance, because that's a lot of people's story. That was my story. I did college classes, but it's like, well, all I've done is dance. How do I jump into a whole new thing? I think that's extremely brave.
Looking back, I think that was one of the things that I was afraid of if I had danced for a long time. Like, I knew that as soon as I got into the company, I knew that was the only thing that I'm going to be doing in my life. And I thought, oh my goodness, like, I don't want to be 40 and not have another career possibility. And I think I also freaked out, just like, wow, like, what am I going to do after this? Because that dance is a very short-lived career. I mean, it's just the nature of it.
Yeah. So how did you make the jump later on? You said you had 3 times that you left dance and came back. So you were in the company, you left, you did finances, you went back to the company.
Went back. It was hard. Yeah. When I went back to the company, it was almost like I felt like I had to relearn everything. Of course, the body retains like some muscle memory, but to be out of ballet for a few years, even when you're in your early 20s, that's a huge jump to go back into that.
Something I noticed with my own body, not training in any capacity to be professional anymore. I remember what it feels like to do it right. And I know I'm not doing it right.
Right, correct.
So that muscle memory, it's like takes on a whole new light.
Right.
For me, it's like I remember what it feels like to stand on one leg with my leg in all its a cone and feel free on the top and grounded in the one leg and rotated through the spiral out through the toe. And I feel it in my brain, and then I look and I'm like, oh. That's not what's happening, and you can feel that it's not what you remember it being. So that it is very strong, but it's challenging to get back.
And even just looking at yourself in the mirror and not recognizing yourself, to me, that was the hardest thing for me. It's the hardest thing whenever I try to come back to ballet, even now, it's not even so much the lack of strength or coordination or whatever else, but it's just looking at yourself in the mirror and not really even recognizing the image that you see in the mirror. I think that's very, very hard. And I think it can play, some crazy mental games with your head if you're not careful and grounded. So I tried to just kind of ignore all of that in the beginning. Like, I tried to wear loose clothing. I just tried to go back to the basics and just focus on the basics and not try to do like crazy moves like fouettes or anything, too strenuous on the body, and just kind of go back in slowly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. Great advice. So how did you make this transition? Because something we haven't mentioned yet is that how you apply dance into your business right now. Because although you are training right now as a dancer, you were not training as a dancer for the last few years, and you've developed quite a life that I feel like you've tailored around the things you want.
Mm-hmm. So when I left the company and I moved to Los Angeles, I was very, very certain that I wanted to share a lifestyle that speaks to me. That was very important to me. I didn't know how to do it. I mean, I had no idea how I was going to do that. At the time when I moved to Los Angeles, I had 68 followers on Instagram. So there was definitely no audience there. So I didn't quite know how to do that. But I think the one thing that's been a constant theme in my journey is that I seem to always be getting in front of the right people at the right time. I have no idea how that works. Even with my financial job, I have a feeling that if it was a different hiring manager, I probably wouldn't have gotten that job. And I think that it was out of luck that I was in front of the right person who would be willing to take a chance and hire me.
Do you prescribe to anything in your life, like any belief that it's gonna take care of you and that's gonna happen, or do you honestly just feel like luck is on your side? I'm wondering, is it something you practice? Or
when I was 18, I actually went to India and I stayed at an ashram there, and I definitely developed a very strong meditation practice. It's been in my daily practice every day. I don't particularly, law of attraction right now is very popular. I think that a lot of people are subscribing to that. There are aspects of law of attraction that make sense to me. Then there are aspects that I don't quite know how that works. And I feel like it's not really my job to figure that out. Mm-hmm. But I do think that, I try to feel very, very connected to my inner self instead of constantly existing out there doing action after action. A lot of people around me are very action oriented, and I think the difference between myself and them is, and even my friends have mentioned this about me, that I tend to take a lot of quiet time for myself just so that I can connect and align myself with what my purpose is supposed to be, versus just doing going through a checklist. This is what I need to do today. I don't typically have a checklist every day. Some days, maybe when I have a lot of meetings and I have to talk about a lot of things to a lot of people, I would just outline something simple. But most of the time, I just try to be very quiet with myself. That's an important practice that I don't like to call it meditation, because sometimes I do it in my car. Sometimes I do it, wherever mm-hmm. I am, just to take deep breaths and just forget about the outside circumstances. Because one thing that I do believe is your outside circumstances are nothing but a projection of your inner state. So if your inner state is you're constantly worrying about money, constantly wanting more money, then the outside reality is nothing but a projection of that. So from early on, I just tried to stay very, very calm and centered. In terms of whatever's going on out there, I try to view it as I'm watching a movie, and I don't get sucked into the plot.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Growing up, my parents would say, don't jump on the stage, mm-hmm. be in the audience, don't be part of the production.
Yeah.
And same idea, but that was always really helpful going
mm-hmm.
into, at that time, was, school dramatics. But now I'll still remind myself as I start to feel caught up in business or people or clients or family. And it's wait, am I being the audience, or am I being an active participant in this literal drama of life?
Right.
I just want to view it.
I think that, when you're constantly in the outside world, especially for dancers, I think that because of our training and the way that we were taught, it's a little bit action oriented. And I think that when you do that, you miss the other part of you, which is I don't want to say the better part, but your greater self, your inner self. And I think that's where the attention is. For example, in terms of money, and I've met a lot of millionaires and billionaires during my time with Merrill Lynch when I worked there. And one thing that I do notice, as far as like a commonality between all of them, is the fact that they don't see money as something that's going to get you something, whether it's freedom, whether it's things that you want to buy. They actually focus on their own life force, and money is a yield of their energy. So I think I learned that's if there's one thing that I learned from my time working in the financial business is everything that's on the outside, that's a yield to your energy. So that's the place that you need to focus on, not the cause. You need to focus on not the effect. You need to focus on the cause. So, yeah.
See, guys, this is why she's on the podcast. You didn't know it was going to go there, did you? It's great. It's so great. I'm taking notes. So having that approach.
So when I moved here, it was very strange. I had 68 followers on Instagram, and I started doing photography because I was actually already doing backstage photography when I was in Seattle, when I was with a company. Whenever I wasn't dancing, I was taking pictures of other dancers and whatever is going on backstage. And people seem to love it. They want to buy prints and, order more copies. And so there was a parent at at the company that I was dancing with, and she said, you should do photography. It seems like you have a natural gift for it. So when I got here, I started taking pictures of people, like engagement pictures or whatever. And then I also took, I think, a few pictures of different dancers that I just met here in the area. And I decided to open an Etsy shop because my friend told me, like, you need to sell your stuff, just so that you can get income, because I didn't have a job when I got here. And so I started doing that. And then she said, the same friend, she said, you have to open your Instagram, like you have to like promote your Instagram account in order for you to like generate some sales. And I thought, oh my goodness, like I didn't know anything about Instagram. I didn't even know what a hashtag is. I didn't know anything about anything. So I started posting product pictures, like, my tote bag, like with my photography on it, or like pillow covers or whatever it was that I was selling. I don't even remember actually. And yeah, nothing was happening. Like there was absolutely no traffic. One day this is the thing when I said I felt like I was guided by something else other than me, for sure. Because one day I woke up and I remember I was going to post a picture of a tote bag with my photography on it. And there was a voice inside of me that told me, yeah, no, obviously that hasn't been working. It hasn't really generated any traffic or any interest. Why don't you post a picture of yourself? And so I posted a picture of myself in front of the Walt Disney Concert Hall that another photographer just took like 2 weeks earlier when I first moved to LA, just got here. I posted it. 2 minutes later, I checked, it had like close to 5,000 likes. And I didn't really know what was happening to my account. For a second, I thought that my account was hacked. I didn't even know, there was absolutely no understanding on my part what it meant, what it was going to lead to, or what actually was happening. I was very confused. And yeah, so the traffic just continued on for like a few days. I went from 68 followers to like 2,000 followers in like less than 24 hours. And that was kind of like the start of my Instagram account. 3 weeks later, I got a DM from a social media agency in Santa Monica. I'm not with them anymore because right now I have a manager, but that's the person who actually got me started in the business. She said, have you ever thought about becoming an influencer? And I told her that I don't even know what that word means. I said, okay, could you please explain to me what is the job, And she said, why don't you come to our office so we can do a formal interview? I literally thought it was a scam because basically what she told me on the DM, she said, well, basically you get to promote items or whatever it is that you like, and then you get paid for it. So you get free items and you get paid for it. And I thought, this doesn't sound right.
Sounds so scammy.
It sounds really, really weird. So I actually went to her office the next day, got an interview, was offered a contract like literally 2 days later. And apparently at the time they were specifically looking for ballet dancers, but a lot of the ballet dancers that they had reached out to had to be in a company. They had to be in class from 9. So they didn't really have the flexibility of time that I had. And she literally told me, she said, you're exactly what we need. Like you're at with the right set skills and with the kind of availability during the day that we need so that you can actually work with brands, shoot with them, and not tied to someone else's schedule, like a company schedule. So that, I just did that. I remember my first collaboration was with Free People. We did a giveaway and they shared it on their page. So I got like 5,000 followers from that deal just because they shared. Instagram was a very different thing back then.
Yeah.
You cannot do that again now.
Yeah.
I mean, that it was very different when I started on Instagram. It's a different animal.
How long
now.
ago was that?
I think I started mine in like 2012 or 2011, something like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't move. I think I moved in 2013. So right around that time.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah. As a business owner, if I could go back in time,
Yeah.
like, if I had jumped on the Instagram train then, but that's a bunch of shoulda, woulda, coulda, whatever.
I know.
But it is a very different game. And I think a lot of kids now and adults, like I went to a entrepreneur conference in Nashville a few weeks ago and it was full of moms who are all trying to make social media work for their businesses.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that, So I think of kids wanting their social medias to become popular and they kind of want that instant fame of what it could have been like 10 years ago or whatever. But the moms and the adults and us our age, we're trying to do it too. We're trying to figure out how to use this new way of marketing to our advantage, and it's changed so rapidly in the last 3 years that it's just different.
I mean, I have to be honest, I'm really not the biggest fan of Instagram right now. I mean, it's a very different environment. I mean, I knew from when they took away the order of the home feed that something was going to go downhill from that point on. And then of course there were more changes being implemented since then, and I don't think that any of those changes made any sense at all. So yeah. But we just have to deal with it. Yeah. I mean, there's really nothing you can do about it.
It's a free platform for
Exactly.
you to share your loves and interests and business and that kind of stuff. And I always remind myself of that when I start to get frustrated with it. I'm like, this is a free platform for you to share and get your information out there. There's a lot of things I wish were different, not just with being able to get my information out there, but also just the way I view other people's stuff. But in the end, we're not paying for it.
I know. Although I think they're trying very hard for us to pay for it. And that's
I think
part
so
of part of the problem.
But that might be more from the other side of it.
Yeah.
It's a podcast for another day.
Yeah.
So tell me how you went from nothing on Instagram to figuring out, this is what an influencer is, into how did you start using it? You said you're with a manager now. I feel like you're a little bit more in control of who you work with, your schedule. It's not so much, I imagine that at the very beginning, those people were giving you stuff and it was take it, no take it or leave it. It was take it.
Right.
And now you've aligned yourself more closely to your personal ambitions, to your the views you have in the world. And I've really seen that in the last year, things starting to shine through. How did you make that shift?
So when I first started on Instagram, I was with an agency. And so I had an agent. And you were right. I mean, I didn't have any ability to turn down campaigns at that time because not only I needed the money, they also needed the money.
You signed a contract.
And I signed a contract. Exactly. So I, basically in my contract, it was stated that unless there was the content was inappropriate or that the brand requested me to do something inappropriate, like, taking a nude picture or something like that. Everything else is a fair game, basically. So I did a lot of campaigns in the beginning, but I have to be very honest. Again, I think I was very, very fortunate. I didn't really have too many brands. If I look back at what I had to do in the beginning, I felt like about 90% of what I did was truly what I wanted to do. And about 10% of them I didn't really want to do, but I had to do it just because I had a contract that I needed to fulfill, basically. And that went fine. I had a great relationship with my agent. We worked together for a good 3 or 4 years. I just signed on with a manager actually not too long ago, like maybe 2 years ago, 2 years ago. And the only reason why I left my agency was because at the time I transitioned to a plant-based diet, and I really believe in veganism and started doing my own animal activism in whatever way that I do activism. It might not be in the traditional way, like, standing in front of a slaughterhouse or anything like that, but I'm doing it in a different way through my platform. And when I told my agent that I only want to collaborate with vegan brands, she freaked out, like, basically, to put it in a short way. She completely she didn't think that it was a good business move. She didn't think that it was a good strategy. She didn't think that there were enough vegan brands in the market for me to only be strictly doing that. And so I said, okay, so I guess, we would have to part ways, because I actually do feel very strongly about this. And we parted. We had a dinner, everything was fine, and I wish her all the best. She wished me all the best. I'm still in touch with her. Sometimes I have lunch with her. And like even now, I just had lunch with her not too long ago, and she actually told me, she said, I didn't want to tell you this earlier because my ego was in the way. She said, but you actually made what you told me you wanted to do work. And that's good for you. She said, good for you. So I found a new manager. He's great. He's been great for these past 2 years. I felt like he wasn't vegan or anything, and he didn't really quite understand that community. But I think the major difference was he was willing to be educated about why I'm so passionate about this lifestyle. And he took notes, and he made all the adjustments that he needed to make in his own mind. And that year when I signed on with him was actually my most profitable year. When I basically did only sustainable, ethical, or vegan brands, it turned out to be my most profitable year, and it was his most profitable year, and I think we're very grateful for that. But that goes to show you that you have to be true to yourself, no matter what. Even if other people don't understand you, that's okay. Some of my friends didn't really quite understand what I was doing, but we're still friends. To me, that's like a good way to kind of sift through who are the people around you and why they're there. I think that it's important to go through house cleaning once in a while, so that you keep your vibration, your energy, and your intention at the right place. Yeah, I think it's very, very important.
Absolutely. And you said they didn't quite understand. But I don't understand all my friends' businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still friends. We still hang out.
That's fine.
We still support each other. And it was really important to me as I left the dance world in the way that I knew the dance world and entered it into the way that I am now, to find new friends that supported this new chapter of life. And it's not that my old friends, or they're still friends, but not that those people don't support me. But it was a new territory, and I didn't know how to navigate it, and I needed support in a different way than I did when I was in the studio from 9 to 8 p.m., and I lived, breathed everything dance. And now I have many, many friends that I'm very thankful for that are on all spectrums of business, employed, self-employed, own big businesses, small, work at a gas station, whatever it is, really all over the board. And we can all get together and we can all talk about each other's lives, jobs, businesses, and feel 100% supported.
Right.
And
that's great.
That's what we need.
Right.
That's what we need. And I think sometimes when we grow up in a niche, no matter what that is, whether that's cultural, religion, dancing, a certain sport, living in a small community, we get really narrow focus unintentionally. And it's hard to see past that. I grew up in Utah, and it's predominantly, especially when I was growing up, it was predominantly Mormon, and I am not Mormon. And what I realize now as an adult is that one of the things about that state is that culturally they are Mormon. So even though there's a certain percentage of religion of people who are Mormon and non-Mormon, the state has adopted culturally Mormonism. So people expect you to be Mormon. Right. They expect you to behave, dress, date, express yourself, have the same, hairstyle, not hairstyle, but, whatever whatever they're prescribing to. And that's not the case, and nobody means to do it. It just happened. So growing up in that very narrow window where it was like, why does this feel kind of odd? I realize it's because everyone, for the most part, just falls into this like window that they're just looking through. And it's not till you step outside and you're like, oh my gosh, there's all this other stuff and we can all be supported this way. But if you grow up around that, or if you grow up in the studio only around dancers, it can feel challenging to find a new support system.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point, because one of the feedback that I have been getting from working with almost over 200 brands, I've worked with over 200 brands, different types of, all sorts of different types of brands. They were very, very relieved when they found out that I knew how to meet a deadline. I knew how to prioritize work. I knew how to shoot content. That's a very important skill if you want to be on Instagram. I knew how to write captions. They were afraid that, you basically only know how to dance and then there's really nothing else that you can do beyond that. And I think that they were relieved to find out that, okay, so there's a little bit of like a business mentality that is already present, which makes it very easy for them to work with me, or easier for them to work with me.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you've been training back again to be back into the dance world yet again.
Yes, again.
Right again.
Yeah.
So you came to me. You started working towards a goal.
Right.
And then you got injured.
Yeah, that was weird. I felt like that was the only time where I was unlucky.
But jumping ahead, if that injury hadn't happened, would all the good things that are coming in the future still be coming to you?
Yeah, no. The answer is no. So of course, everything happens for a reason, but like, I think that when we first met earlier this year, whenever that was, or maybe late last year, I was just starting to get back into shape. I felt like I was starting to get into the rhythm of training all over again. And then literally I stepped into a trampoline and just basically killed my right ankle. And my doctor actually told me that there's only about a 15% chance. When I first saw him, he said about a 15% chance that you're going to be on point again. Possibly career-ending injury. And I remember that I was so upset, and I went into this like a week of major depression. I've never felt that way before in my life. I was so upset at myself for just being stupid. I mean, like, I didn't even injure myself in class doing some, fancy move like fuetes.
Yeah.
I think I would have been much happier if that happened to me. But I asked my doctor, I said, what about, surgery? And he said, no, you don't want to do that because it's going to lock up your ankle. So I would rather have you feel the instability and the weakness and see what you can work out of that, instead of just trying to kind of make it solid, but it's actually a fake feeling
sense of security.
Fake sense of security. Exactly that. So then, and the other thing that I think I had talked to you about when I first started training with you is that I actually have a project coming up.
Yeah.
I had a very important dance project coming up that I was, I was supposed to shoot. I don't remember when it was. Now I'm like completely confused by the dates. I think I was supposed to shoot that project this time around in the fall.
I mean, so.
Yeah, in the fall. And then when I got injured, I obviously had to call my producers and told them, like, this is really stupid, but I got injured. I don't know. I cannot even dance for the next 6 months, which automatically puts me out of that project. And I was very sad about it. I was very upset at myself. And then about a few months later, I haven't even started taking class again. I think I was still in the middle of my recovery, working in physical therapy. And I got a call from the director, and he said, I really want to wait for you. I want you to get stronger, and I want to wait for you. And I think that we need to do this together. And I was very flattered. So that's the reason why I came back to training again. I think we're supposed to shoot in summer 2021. So I have a little bit more time than I thought I have. And yeah, I'm just trying to be responsible about it when somebody's extending themselves, like, what my director had done. I think that I have to be responsible about what that means on my end, and I need to kind of step up my game as well. to make it worthwhile for everybody that's involved in this project. So that's what I'm working towards. And yeah, it's a constant battle every day. It's hard. It's hard. Getting back in shape after 6 months not dancing and a pretty major injury it's not easy. It's very, very hard. And I'm not 21 anymore. So yeah.
Yeah. But you're doing it well.
And thank you.
You are.
It's because of you. Thanks to you.
No, it's because of all of the hard work that you're doing. I'm saying she, like she's not here, but she's very committed, guys. No, but if you go check out her Instagram, which we'll leave for you guys, but you have great stories. I mean, and most of the time they have nothing to do with dance. I mean, it's so motivational for me to see you in your daily life, and you're not one of those people on Instagram that like, it's like, God, they must have spent like 5 hours making that photo right. And I mean that in the best way, because I'm like, that is not what your day looks like. Like, I'm like, please, I know how this day goes. This is not how it is.
No.
And especially since your injury, I remember when we kept texting and it was like, are you going to be able to come back? And you're like, nope, not yet. Are you going to be able to come back? Nope, not yet. And I started to see that you were exploring all these other different parts of your life that I didn't know existed. I don't know if you knew they existed quite the way they did. I remember you found a great cause to work for. You ended up with those amazing sneakers and an amazing cause that did phenomenally. I saw you were using your finance stuff and I was like, what? Wait, where did this come from?
I mean, I think, when you cannot dance, I mean, there was really nothing much I could do. I really couldn't speed up the process of my own healing. My body needed time to heal. And I thought to myself, what can I do to, fill up my time during this time? And a lot of people told me that you should just go to the gym and just do what you can. I don't really function that way. I know that some people can do that. They can just like go to the gym and stay there for 20 minutes. When I go to the gym, I stay at the gym 5 hours. I will either do everything or I do nothing. And I don't really do anything in between that because I just don't know how to even structure that. So, I completely let myself go when I was injured. I didn't exercise at all for 6 months, like not even anything. And I sort of went back to everything else that I knew other than dance. And I founded this mastermind group, which I'm still in touch with all the members. I mean, it's very sad that right now I cannot really do it with them because I don't really have the time, where we basically cover topics of spirituality, self-mastery, and everything else that we all want to get better at. And it's very good to do that in support, like with the support of a group. And then I created the vegan sneakers with a friend of mine, and all of that, 100% of the proceeds went to LGBTQ youth homelessness. Created a line of yoga apparel, which is going to come out pretty soon, and like bomber jackets for ballerinas so that they can stay warm in class. All of that, all of the proceeds from all of that will definitely go towards charity. I don't really have any intention of keeping any kind of money for myself, or my partners feel the same way. So we're just trying to do good. I think that's the best thing that you can do, because I took it as a sign when I got injured that you've been focusing too much on, training and yourself. Let's see what happens when you switch the focus away to other people and ask yourself, how can I serve others at this time? So that's exactly what I did. And it was very, very healing for me. It was very therapeutic for me.
It's really difficult, speaking as someone who's been injured, it's really difficult to, I find myself going inward. Like you said, it's like, oh, woe's me. I got injured. This is stopping my goals and dreams, and I can't do this or this. And in past episodes, I've talked about making sure that when you are in those spots, when you're in a depression, of whatever sort, when you're feeling like you aren't reaching the goals that you're setting for yourself, one of the best things that I can suggest is go out and do service for other people. Is just go rake someone's lawn, go take your friend, your
Right.
neighbor's garbage out, stop on the street and help someone up the curb, or a mom with all her stuff. It seems so small, but there is just no way for me to be in anything but a happy, grateful mood after I help a mom with 3 kids, like, get from the grocery store to her car. And it's 100% true. When I switch the focus outside of myself, my outlook changes, which then pulls in what my outlook is. So
No, that's exactly true. And I think that one of the, I don't want to say drawbacks, but one of the things about us dancers is I feel like everything is so focused on the self. You look at yourself in the mirror, you basically analyze what you're doing, what you're not doing right. And then you, again, put yourself, the focus is always on you, like on me. And I think if you're not careful of that, it can get too far. And the last thing I want to see on stage is narcissistic dancers. I don't even care how good you are, but if I feel like you're doing this just to get attention, I think that will basically close any kind of door to any kind of possibility. There has to be a greater purpose than that, I think, in whatever you do. Not just dancing, but in dancing is particularly important because there's a lot of self-centeredness, not in a self-centered egotistical way, but like we focus so much on ourselves because our bodies are instrument. So,
and it's an individual sport. You train by yourself.
Exactly.
You look in the mirror. You said it's our instrument. Dancing is a self-centered act. And then on top of it, when you add the self-centered ego, like you said, that's when it's bad mix. But dancing becomes a self-centered place in life.
Yeah, we're just focused too much on the way we look most of the time. So it's you have to balance it out. And I think that when I got injured, I saw that as an opportunity for me to really, really step away from myself and just figure out what I can do for other people. And I'm telling you, it was like the best thing that I could have done at that time, I think, looking back. So
yeah. Well, when you came back to me recently, getting ready for this next thing, you looked like a different person. I think I told you that when you walked in. I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm seeing you on Instagram and we've been, texting and talking, but you looked like a different person, even just from pre to post injury. And I know that you came in and I think the first thing you said to me is, I got a lot of work to do. And I love that. But I was like, for all the physical work you have to do, you sure look great, emotionally calm, very, very centered with yourself. And this time feels a little different than...
Oh, I do feel different. Even just working with you, I think that the last time we worked together before my injury, I know that I was frustrated with myself a lot more. I know that I'm impatient by nature, so that's not a surprise, but I didn't think that the results were coming soon enough. And right now I'm just cruising along. I know that if I'm putting in honest work every day, at some point it's going to show. Even if it's not today. So,
yeah.
And just kind of I have a lot more trust in how things are unfolding. And because of that, I have a lot less stress. I don't really worry that much. I don't really worry about anything much these days. It's kind of the worst thing that could have happened to me when I got my injury. It was the worst time. Literally could not. It was really the worst time for me to get injured. And how it happened, the circumstances were... I just couldn't even believe it. It was insane. So that already happened. So I figured, what else can happen? Really.
Yeah. And you didn't throw that out as a challenge to the universe, obviously, because you're still here.
I know.
But, yeah. And I do think as we grazed over your adult life really quickly with your dance and in and out and how you've used dance to form a career that has a lot to do with dance, but nothing to do with dance.
Precisely.
I know that on Instagram you're the vegan ballerina, but the projects that you have gotten in the past, what you do now doesn't always have to do with dance.
No.
But it's because of you being a dancer that you've gotten those projects or because it's turned you into the person that you are
Absolutely.
today.
And I see a lot of dancers, more and more dancers doing that. I mean, I see a lot of freelance dancers doing what they're passionate about. I mean, they might be passionate about a completely different cause than what I'm passionate about, but good for them. I mean, somehow I think company life is not the only way to go these days. I mean, I probably would have said, I probably would have said that it was the only way to go like maybe 10 years ago. But right now there's so many opportunities that's not the only thing that you can do when you're a dancer. Like that, it doesn't have to be the end goal. If that's what you love, go for it, But if that's not what you love, you still can use your training and do something equally extraordinary in something else. So that still has a dance component to it, like a ballet component to it. So
yeah.
I
think that pretty much sums you up right now. It does.
Yeah. Thank you
you're
so
doing
much.
Extraordinary things with everything you've collected in your life, and you just continue to branch out and try new things and take everything with you. You're not leaving anything behind. You're just bringing it with you and bringing the knowledge into the next endeavor that you're finding. And I think that's why people are so drawn to work with you from an outside perspective. So my little podcast room. Oh my gosh.
So
this has been amazing. I could keep talking to you.
I know.
forever.
We could just sit here all
We
day
could.
long and talk and talk and talk.
We could.
Yeah.
But Agnes, tell everyone where they can find some of your content.
So my handle is Artsy Agnes on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I don't have a YouTube account. A lot of people are asking me why I'm not on YouTube. I actually got an email from their creative team not too long ago, like, why are you not? I mean, I have a YouTube account, but I don't have anything on it.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work to make content for all these different things.
I just don't have the time,
I'm the
especially
same
right
way.
now. I barely post on Instagram these days, but I do post on stories.
You do your stories every day. So.
Yeah, but I don't really post on my account because I don't really have time, and I don't really have time to like always respond. Because once I post that's what I like about stories. You don't have to worry about it. Like you just post your stories, and it's kind of like that's it. It's out there, and you don't have to do anything else. When I post to my account, there's a lot of people DMing me. There's a lot of people like posting comments, like writing comments, and I have to, answer to them. So I try to kind of just like limit that for now while I'm focusing on my training.
That's okay.
So, yeah.
That's okay. You're sharing a lot on your stories. So everyone go check that out. There is definitely some good stuff coming your way. So thank you for coming on and sharing.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah, this is fun. We might have to have you back. Maybe we can venture into the Instagram world on another one.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Ali.
Listening to Agnes, I think you now get a taste of why I wanted her on the podcast. She really is a phenomenal human, and I have loved listening to her outlook on her journey and her past as she has gone through these ups and downs in her life and career, and really is taking every step in stride and turning it into a positive, then something that creates something bigger and better for her life. I believe having such an intense goal in mind while you go through these natural ups and downs in life really solidify who you are. And these are the moments that I want to learn about. I want to share with you guys. And I want to be able to take pieces from each of the people that are on this podcast and use and apply them into my life. And I hope that that's something that you're starting to be able to do as we're getting through into some of the deeper episodes in this podcast. So thank you for always coming with an open heart and mind, taking what these guests have to give and applying it into your dance life or your dancer's life. So thank you for spending your time every week with us, and make sure you go check out Agnes's Instagram and see what she's up to and all of the wonderful things. And I will see you all back here next week on Beyond the Point.